lenders say time and again how often they're losing borrowers that are selling their property by buying another property, how often they're losing those borrowers to the listing broker, because the listing broker is the first one there to know that you guys are buying a property. Well, we're changing that. We're making it the lender that will be the first one to know.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo. Unfortunately, my co-host, Jeff Walston, wasn't able to be here today, but we're looking forward to today's episode. Adam Sharif, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
That's correct.
Founder and CEO of nxtCRE. We're going to be talking a little bit about a variety of different topics. You do have a unique background in a variety of different facets of the commercial real estate industry, so I'm looking forward to kind of dive it in. So welcome, Adam.
Glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, we're honored to have you, really, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, this is the unique platform is that you offer through nxtCRE, and I have a little bit of technology background, so I'm kind of interested to hear your take on a variety of different things related to fintech and the future of it. But to start out, what I'd love to do is kind of learn a little bit more about yourself, your background. So if you don't mind kind of sharing your backstory, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, my background is in commercial real estate finance. I used to run the equities transactions group for GMAC Commercial Mortgage. I was a member of the senior management committee and learned a lot about the debt and equity part of the business. After leaving GMAC, I started my own real estate investment and development firm. We developed in Illinois, Texas, and Florida. In fact, most of our deals were in Florida, South Florida. The first deal we acquired in Florida was a REIT, a George Soros-owned REIT that included a 517-unit waterfront property in Miami Beach. So it was really exciting for us. We developed 1,000 townhouse units and Palm Beach Gardens and that sort of stuff. But again, my background is in commercial real estate finance. Even before, although I say my background is commercial real estate finance, my career in commercial real estate started out as an investment broker, and that was probably the best education I've ever had. There's no better place to learn how to about the real estate business than trying to get two sides of a transaction that don't know you, know nothing about you, together to do a business based on nothing more than the confidence they have in you. And that's not that easy to do when you're just starting out. You don't know anything. You're just learning what a cap rate is and that sort of stuff. But we were fortunate. I was successful the first few years enough that I got recruited by GMAC, and then here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, and you had mentioned, the experience you had on the brokerage side. I came from a software background. I'm an engineer by trade, and jumping into the brokerage space about 3.5 years ago, it is a completely different skill set, and being able to utilize, build those sales muscles, as they say, you learn a lot. I mean, learning by transacting is what we've had a lot of people kind of comment on in the podcast, and I feel like you're right. I mean, it's one of the best ways for you to learn about the business and see where you fit, because there's obviously development, there's lending, there's, a variety of different facets within the commercial real estate industry. So, it's, I've found the experience to be invaluable thus far.
I mean, this is going to sound simplistic, but getting in commercial real estate doesn't guarantee anything. You have to literally go out there and gain a product. You got to get a listing. Without that, you have nothing. And that's one of the hardest things. Well, I know that's one of the hardest things in commercial real estate transaction. Brokers who have listings work very hard to get those, and they have to establish relationships, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's a great place to start. If anyone wants to get in commercial real estate, is to start as an investment broker, assuming you can get that opportunity, you can find that opportunity.
Absolutely. So, one of the things we like to talk about, obviously, is the background of the individual, and then really what got them interested in the business. I did a little bit of research on you. It looks like you went to Embry-Riddle. Is that correct?
Yep.
So did you go because of, from a business standpoint, or because I know Embry-Riddle is a phenomenal aeronautical school. I know there's.
Yeah, I had visions of being part of the space program.
Mhm.
I mean, I remember watching Neil Armstrong in 1969. I was just a little kid, of course, and I'm like, wow, I want to do that. And it kind of stuck with me. But once I got into it, once I started going into it, I realized it wasn't for me. I found the classes that I thought that I had the least amount of interest turn out the ones that I had the greatest amount of interest. My finance courses, I'm like, this is gonna be bullshit. I don't want. But it was like, wow, this is great stuff. It was easy for me. It was really easy. It was my law classes. I'm like, oh, man, I have to write shit and all that. This is not for me. And it turned out some of the best grades I got were my law classes and finance classes and economics classes. So as I was coming towards the end of my studies there, I said, I'm everything I learned last several years isn't going to help me going forward because I don't want to do that. So I got into real estate.
That's awesome.
I mean, not directly. There had a couple of steps in between.
Oh yeah, yes. Of course. But I think one of the things that the common veins we see with a lot of people that we interview on the podcast is that a lot of times the real estate career, whether that's development or whatever related to commercial real estate, some of it is directly straight out of college. They knew they were going to do it, whether their family were in it or maybe they had a close connection that they were able to leverage to get into it. But a lot of times, it is a secondary thought. It's not necessarily something that was preordained or predestined for people to do. And so it's always kind of nice to hear people's concept, because there's a lot of people listening to the podcast that, it's not necessarily a direct line that they've taken into the business. So we appreciate
how many parents encourage their kids, parents who are not in commercial real estate, encourage their kids to go get into commercial real estate. That's what I want you to do at, in ninth grade. How many parents do that? Doctors, yes. Lawyers, yes.
Yeah.
Engineers, yes. But you don't get too many.
And you mentioned the immigrant community. My dad's Puerto Rican, and he's obviously connected to the United States, but my mom's Italian, and from an immigrant standpoint, we were always pressed to kind of pursue education, get higher education, go become a lawyer, go become a doctor. My dad's a doctor. My grandmother was like really pushing really hard to get him into that industry. And obviously my dad had aspirations for me to be in that similar profession, but it just didn't align with, what I wanted to do. And I mean, kind of combating that, is always something that's kind of interesting as well. So,
yeah, it was a great disappointment to my parents because I didn't go to med school.
I'm sure they're proud of you now for sure. But kind of going back, obviously you had the experience on the transactional front. You got into the development side with a variety of different projects you were involved in, and then you jumped into, it seemed like you jumped into the startup space, which obviously is quite challenging. So if you could talk a little bit about, what was the impetus for deciding to go and start your company, and then kind of go what the evolution has been since then.
Okay, when I was in commercial, when I was at GMAC, I was a member of the senior management committee. I ran the equity transactions group for them, and we were primarily a debt platform. And we knew 20% of our portfolio, of a $300 billion portfolio, and back then we were the 800-pound gorilla. 20% of our portfolio were being paid off every year. Those are loan runoffs that have to be replenished, and we were really 25% of that 20% refinanced their properties. And we were really good at that. We knew when the loans were going to mature, and 2 years ahead of that time, we would be chasing those borrowers, make sure they would refinance with us. But a larger part, 75% of all loans being paid off were being paid off due to a sale of a property. And we had no line of sight as to what they were going to be doing next, because they were an exiting borrower, they were exiting customer. So I asked the people on my team, like, what, we got all this data. There's this massive amount of equity that's being passed around. There's these enormous transaction capital events going on. How can we profit from that? And they said, we don't know. We're a debt platform. Do whatever you want. So I started contacting those borrowers who are paying off their loan by selling the property, and they all 2/3 of them told me they were going to reinvest the cash to buy another property. And we just asked them, would you be interested in seeing opportunities from us? They just assumed, because we had a $300 billion loan portfolio with tens of thousands of borrowers, that we we had opportunities that they otherwise may not see, right? It could be distressed opportunity. It could be other borrowers who don't want to list their property, but want to sell it off market stuff. So yeah, they said, absolutely, please bring us whatever you can. We want to see everything in the marketplace. How else are we going to make the best decision, right? The more data points you have, better. And then so I said, great. We went to our other borrowers who were selling their property, asked them if they'd be interested in selling their property to a 1031 exchange buyer. We now call them must-buy investors, but back then we just called it 1031 exchange. And the answer was universally yes, of course. They've got their cash in hand. They have a very short time to make a decision. So as a seller, I know I'm not going to get strung out. This is a real guy. He's got a real person. They have to do a deal. But because they were investing cash from a sale, they were investing cash that otherwise would be going to various taxing authorities, state and federal taxes. The reason they were reinvesting was to defer their taxes using 1031 exchange. Because they were doing that, any return they got on that money would be gravy, if you will, right? So sellers knew that these people cared more about the deliverability than making sure that they picked the last nickel off the table, right? So they were very excited about selling to those people. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. The biggest problem we had way too much business. We couldn't. Back then, what we had was the most often used form of communicating data was phone, fax, and FedEx. And although we were identifying these people so early in the process, still wasn't enough. By the time you copied and paste stuff and collected information, copied and paste stuff, and presented it, got it to someone else, took a lot of time. And once one of my people who worked for me got a deal. That's all they worked on, and all this other deals were just coming in. It was like, you probably aren't old enough to remember this, but there's an I Love Lucy episode where chocolate is coming through a conveyor belt, and her job is to wrap each chocolate with a wrapper and put it aside, and the conveyor belt goes faster and faster, and there's no way she could keep up with that, and so she started eating the chocolate. It obviously supposed to be funny, and it is.
Yeah, of course.
We had that kind of a problem. We couldn't handle the volume of business that was coming at us so fast, and we were sort of embarrassing ourselves too, because I would have had to hire 80 plus people to handle that kind of volume. And when you do that for a big company, you don't own any of that stuff. And, that's a lot of work to have the company take it and hand it to someone else, right? Because that's what happened. So I said, no, that's not going to work. We stopped it, and I went on to become a developer. 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, I was just looking at what's going on at commercial real estate market. Well, specifically what was going on in tech, and how it was being leveraged in the commercial real estate environment, and noticed that there have been a lot of advances in technology that could solve the problems that we had when I was at GMAC, communicating information, which is really what it was. And so I said, all right, let's do this. Let's build a platform. Let's leverage technology using the same exact model we had at GMAC, and let's see how successful it's going to be, because our biggest problem was we had too much business. And so the technology should be able to fix that. Of course, I no longer work for GMAC. I no longer had $300 billion of loan servicing in my hand. By the way, that today would be around $900 trillion, right? That was 23 years ago. I lost my train of thought. So let's leverage technology and see how it works. And I didn't have a $300 billion servicing portfolio to go through and pick and choose who I want to work with. So we had to build partnership with commercial real estate lenders. Right now, we have partners, commercial real estate lenders across the nation are partnering with us so they can gain line of sight. We've got partners from Miami to LA, New York, Dallas, Chicago, Detroit, and a bunch of other places in between. And Lumen being our most recent lending partner. Lumen is an Oryx company. Oryx has $85 billion in asset under management, something like that. And Lumen has $50 billion loans with 7,000 borrowers. So that's a big get for us, where we've got several other lenders right now that we're speaking with about becoming a partner with us. Basically, the lenders are our source of product. We get our product. And the value proposition for the lender is enormous. Now they get to provide acquisition financing on acquisitions that are being made by their own borrowers that they otherwise would not be able to see. The way we do it is very simple. We've identified what we call an early warning signal. It's just a fancy way of saying, request for a loan payoff by a borrower. That's what they have to do when they want to pay off their loan if they're selling their property. So we use that signal the lender receives as a starting point to gather the kind of data that can help the lenders in a variety of ways. Once that is done, the information that we collect from the borrower, assuming they're going to be reinvesting the proceeds from the sale, is what do you want to buy, where do you want to buy it, how much equity do you have in your price range. And when they and they're not providing it to us, they're providing it to the lender. Kind of like that. It goes on our platform. A lender gets a dashboard where they can see that activity, see exactly what their own borrowers are interested in looking at. We're not a listing site, so you don't go on our site and find a bunch of must-buy investors or properties for sale. But if you're a property seller, you upload your property information and it's confidential. No one knows about it. And if your property information matches the needs of our must-buy investors, we'll match you like a dating site. So you upload your property information, you'll get matched with multiple, we call them must-buy investors, MBIs, and then you pick and choose which ones you want to send your listing to your property to. Now, you don't get to see their contact information. The only thing you get to see is the amount of equity they have and number of days till their selection deadline, because they have a hard deadline. It's inflexible. The deadline is inflexible. You got to do it by that date. And so based on that, sellers will decide if they want to send their property to them. If they do, and the must-buy investor receives it, and if they like it, they'll accept it, and automatically a message goes to the seller, and information is exchanged, and all of this activity is seen by the lender on their dashboard. And they can jump in at any time based on the properties that their borrower is looking to acquire, based on its location, based on amount of equity they're going to be investing. All that, they can then jump in and provide an acquisition funding for that borrower. It's an opportunity for them to keep a borrower that they are comfortable with, and these people usually employ a very low leverage on their acquisitions, because they have so much equity built up from the sale of the last property. They can do normally they're in a 60 to 65% range. This is an exciting opportunity for a lender to capture that buyer. Now, here's the thing that's going on recently in commercial real estate. Maybe 3, 4, 5 years. It wasn't so much happening when I was doing it, but today what's happening a lot of times is a lot of these brokerage homes and brokerage houses, commercial real estate investment brokerage homes, whether it's Mark Millichap, CB Richard Ellis, JLL, all these guys, what they do is if they have a buyer interested in one of their listings, the first thing they'll try to do is to get that borrower to also use them to originate the acquisition loan. So in a case like with Lumen, and we have a case study we'll be happy to share with you, we identified what their own borrower was going to do, and the deals came through our platform to that borrower. And Lumen was able to see the activity, and they were able to provide acquisition financing. If it wasn't for us, and if that borrower had gone to one of the firms that have their own origination shop, Lumen may have never seen any of those deals that the borrower was looking at. They will not have known what the financial conditions of those opportunities were. They would not have been able to provide an acquisition funding because they wouldn't even known about it. But because it's coming through our platform, brokers no longer have that advantage of going to the borrower and saying, listen, if you want to buy a property, if you want to buy my listing, you're going to have to use me too as a loan originator. And a lot of lenders are complaining about this. A lot of lenders are losing business because this is going on. Our model, the way it's set up, and the benefits to the lender is that lender gets the first shot. Our lending partners get the first shot. They get the first crack at it before that borrower goes to the market, before the borrower even starts looking for a new property. So great advantage for the lenders. And great advantage for the must-buy investors. They get, instead of going on every listing sites and trying to filter and only to find out that some of these listings are dated or they're already had closed, but the broker has them on there because it's their way of finding new buyers and things like that. It's a way to prospect, basically, right? And then those must-buy investors start getting calls from 10, 15 different brokers nonstop. A lot of them aren't really what must-buy investors are looking for. Now they stay anonymous. They get to see multiple properties. The one case study I mentioned, the first that borrower got 28 listings. They realized that their range, their buying profile was a little too wide, so they narrowed it down, and then they got 8, and they made offers on 2, and they didn't have to do anything else. That was it. The deals were coming to them. The information was flowing to them efficiently, accurately, with great efficiency. Lumen was seeing all the activities going on, and it was for them. It's just easy. I'm like, oh, look, this guy's buying this. I'm going to give him. Here's the quote I can give him based on today's rates, based on sizing the loan, given what the NOI and other sort of things that they use to size loans. So anyway, so that. That's basically it.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that. So as far as recapping the value proposition, so from a lender's perspective, they have in-house loans that they've maybe been servicing over time, and when a refinance comes up online, or they need buyer needs to refinance, they have the ability to potentially retain that business as well, because their particular buyer is still on their platform or their dashboard, and they can kind of control the process as far as making sure that whatever selection the buyer makes, they have the first dibs of being able to showcase what they can offer as far as loan is concerned. As far as potential buyers, can any buyer that just so happens to really want to buy, so you have to be affiliated with some of these lenders.
Yeah. So let me just make comment. Just one, comment on the last comment you made.
Sure.
We're not involved in the refinancing. The lenders do that fine. They know who these borrowers are. Again, 2 years before their loan maturity, they're after them, and they do a great job on that. What they don't do very well, because it's difficult for them to do unless you have what's going on, unless you have information, is to identify those borrowers who are going to be reinvesting the proceeds from a sale that's going on. So, what are they going to buy, and who's going to finance those deals for them? That's where we help lenders. That's the area where lenders need us the most. So in addition to having early look at their own borrowers' upcoming equity reinvestment and debt funding needs, when a transaction does close on our platform, we generate 0.75%. 75 basis points. We give the lender 50 basis points, 2/3, and we keep 25 basis points for ourselves, 1/3. So the lion's share of the revenue generated by our platform goes to the lender. Lender gets the first crack at providing the acquisition funding. So it's a very powerful value prop for the lender.
That's awesome. And as far as, brokerage activity is concerned, so if, let's say they get matched, for example, like a buyer decides to make an offer on that property, that's handled off platform. Is that correct? Or do you have a functionality within the platform to make an offer as well? Or how does that work?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we encourage and sometimes incentivize them to stay on the platform as long as possible. We ask them to issue a letter of intent on our platform. But what happens in commercial real estate is that once the letter of intent is signed and they move into contract, lawyers take over, and lawyers aren't going to, they're not going to keep that stuff on your platform. Although I keep hearing people say we have end-to-end transact. Like, how can you do that? Lawyers aren't going to, but we have, people who have a dog in a fight to maintain line of sight. So the lender and the borrower have a great relationship, right? They have a relationship, to say the least, right? They've known each other for a long time. And so what we don't see, the lender will see, because lender's going to still want to see the contract that's executed. Lender's still going to want to know the closing date. Lender's going to know all these other stuff, and we're part of the HUD statement at the closing. So the lender has a dog in a fight. They're getting part of our fee. They want to make sure the deal happens. So that's how we maintain line of sight. We also are forming partnership with title companies, national title companies, and sort of encouraging our must-buy investors to use those title companies that are partnering with us. And there's, there might be some, we might incentivize them to do certain things on our platform. And that also gives us a better line of sight as to the end, if you will. So we can do a really great job right up to the time the lawyers take over. From then, we're going to rely on some of our other partners to keep us in the loop, because the attorneys are not going to do that.
100%.
And it's understandable. Yeah.
No, 100%. And so I'm kind of curious, obviously, I think providing context, if you could go through like a high-level case study. One of the things I'm interested in, and obviously the lenders you're working with obviously are multi-state lenders, I'm assuming, correct?
Yep.
So their coverage is huge. So even if a deal, let's say they sell in Florida, now you identify an opportunity in Nashville, Tennessee, it's really not going to be an issue as far as being able to get the deal done and finance. So, as far as that's concerned, could you kind of walk through an example maybe of just a case study, or just a quick case study to kind of showcase what the platform can do?
Yeah, and I touched on it a little bit earlier. So what happens is what did happen, a real study, on February 10th, Lumen started using our platform on a limited basis initially. Mm-hmm. So there was sort of a test, if you will. So one of the Lumen producers sent a link to that questionnaire to one of their borrowers on February 10th. This is actual event. Within hours, that borrower, after receiving it, I say hours, it could have been minutes, I don't know exactly, completed the questionnaire and had it on our platform. Within 72 hours, we had 28 opportunities in front of them. Now, some of them came immediately, some of them like within hours, but after he got 28 in 3 days, he said, let me narrow down my search a little bit, because I'm getting too many deals. I don't have time to go through 28 deals. Now that I know that I can find opportunities in an area I really want, I can now narrow it to say that. Before, they went out and had a very wide range, and that's because they didn't know what sort of deal flow they were going to have, and might have to buy something that may not have been absolutely in their wheelhouse. But when they saw the kind of deals they were getting, they narrowed down the search, got down to 8 motivated sellers, made offers on 2 of those deals, and Lumen provided a quote for the 2 acquisitions where they made an offer on, and we anticipate that deal to close shortly. Lumen's going to be doing the funding on that transaction. That's an actual real story that happened, and it worked exactly as it was designed to work.
That's amazing. So on the seller side, let's say that I put, and maybe you can correct me, I want to make sure I have the mechanics correctly. So if I'm a seller and I want to say, hey, I want to offload this particular property that could be a good fit for a potential must-buy, potential buyer. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the platform. Is that one listing going to go to all the different lender partners that you have, or how does that work?
It doesn't go to a lender partner.
It transacts on the platform, but I guess what I'm saying is that, if you have 5 must-buy individuals that have similar criteria, are they all going to be getting the same information?
Let's say you own a 30-unit apartment complex in Knoxville, Tennessee. Okay,
sure.
And you upload your property information onto our site. Every must-buy investor on our platform that's looking to buy a property in Knoxville, Tennessee will get your listing.
That's awesome.
You'll be matched with, you'll be matched with them. It will tell you, hey, look, these are the 7 must-buy investors that are interested in buying 30-unit apartment complex in Knoxville, Tennessee. They might be interested in other places as well, but we know that they're interested in there as well. Those are the ones you see, and then you get to decide which ones you want to send your property to. Now, you don't get to see their names and contact information, but you do see the amount of equity they have, number of days till their selection deadline. if a must-buy investor has 5 days till the selection deadline, you may not want to send it to them, because they not only have to have time to review the information, but they have to also control it, because it's really scary to identify a property you want to buy that you don't control, because if that deal does not happen, you just blew through your 1031 exchange. And so 5 days wouldn't be enough, right? So you may not want to send your property to that must-buy investor, but you will send it to someone that have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 days. Those, you say, yeah, they have sufficient time to, if they're motivated enough, to select my property as one of the properties they want to buy. So that's basically how it works. And once you select which ones you want to send your property to, you just click on each one of those names, automatically gets to them. They get it. They look at it. They'll say, oh, okay, I like this. No, it doesn't. No, yeah, I was, you could have a must-buy investor that wanted to buy in Knoxville, Tennessee when they completed a questionnaire, but now they say, oh, I don't want to do Knoxville anymore, okay, for a variety of reasons. And so they won't respond to you. But the ones who are still interested in doing a deal in Knoxville, Tennessee, 30 units in that price range, they'll respond to you and say, look, we like this, we want more information. And the platform is such that as soon as the must-buy investor asks, shows an interest in the property, the platform automatically will send a canned list of items that we want the seller to provide to them, assuming it wasn't already provided. That could be a virtual walkthrough, obviously trailing 12, financial statements, rent roll, all those things an investor needs in order to decide what they want to pay and how much they want, and whether they're interested in it at all. The same information a lender is going to want to underwrite the loan, and the lender sees that information exchange being sent to their borrower, and now they have a chance to keep a customer, and because what they say, it's much easier to keep a customer than to acquire a new one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a great value proposition, and it's good. I like the fact that you elaborated a little bit more, because for our audience in particular, I think getting in the granularity and understanding how the mechanics work on the back end helps to kind of understand the value proposition, both from the seller side and primarily the lender side as well, too. So I appreciate you sharing that insight on that front. So one of the things I'm curious about, obviously, we're in a unique environment currently, and we've seen some fluctuations in pricing. The economic environment has been kind of interesting to say the least. What have you seen as far as the transaction volume when it comes to 1031 exchange activity on the platform?
Well, great question. A couple of things. First of all, the size of the market. It's a $400 billion a year market. There's about 70,000 1031 exchange transactions a year, and these people invest $150 billion in equity, use $250 billion in debt to acquire $400 billion. Now, right now, we are between now and next 2 years, 3 years, enormous amount of commercial real estate loans are maturing, and most of these loans were originated in 2013, 14, 15, and such. And so they've built in a lot of equity in those transactions. A lot of property sellers today are saying, I want to sell, but I don't want to sell in this environment. There's just too much uncertainty going on. So they'll ask their lender for a little bit time to assess the market better. But lenders don't have any really pressing need to do anything with these borrowers. Why? Well, a couple of things. First of all, their interest payment is too low that they've been getting relative to what they can get today. There's a lot of equity built into those properties, so there's no risk of default or bankruptcy or anything like that. And so they will accommodate those borrowers for a short term, which is what's happening right now. We expect all the transactions that have been delayed at the start of this year to eventually do happen this year. It just will be later in the year. So we've seen the decline in transaction volume throughout everything, but we're not seeing the kind of crisis that's a lot of stuff I'm reading on. You got all these mortgage loans that are coming due, and who's going to refinance them? Well, my answer is, historically, only 25% of them get refinanced. 75% are paid off during sale, and there's enough equity here to to force that sale, unless the borrower wants to lock in that another loan for another 10 years, which is not very ideal, because you've got all this equity. You need to take it out, right? You want to take it out. And right now is not the time to take it out, because the cost, if you want to refinance on a short-term loan, that's not cheap. It's much higher today than it was. So we expect sales to happen. But just to give you a sense, in 2008, where commercial real estate volume was in the dump, I mean, like there was nothing going on. 80 some odd billion dollars of 1031 exchange deals were still done in 2008. Over 80 billion dollars. Now, today it's 400 billion, but 2008 is different. It was a different world. There was nothing going on. There was no liquidity, zero. That's not the case today. There's a lot of cash sitting there. It's just that, do we want the right terms? And these must-buy investors who have built a lot of equity, when they go to buy another property, they don't need as big a leverage on the new loan, simply because they're using a lot of equity, and lenders love those type of loans in this market, where they can get a higher rate of interest but much more conservative leverage. So lenders love that sort of stuff, we expect that to continue. But here's the thing. If you're a property seller, and it's really natural, because I've been a property seller, I've been a buyer, I've done all that. It's really natural to hate the current environment, because a year ago, you're thinking you're going to sell your property, your apartment complex, at a 3.5 cap, something like that. Today, you're looking at selling at 5.5 cap, maybe higher, depending on the quality of the property. And that may even go up higher, depending on where interest rates are. And so no one's going to want to do that, right? No seller's going to want to do that, but their options are not all that great, right? The options are to refinance that thing long term, lock in your equity even for another 10 years. Who wants to do that? Or get a high rate of bridge funding today, which has a cost to it as well. So I recommend to people, say, look, you got 3 choices. Maybe none of them are ideal, but selling your property is your best, because the downside of selling in a down market is the upside in buying in a down market. So it is true, you have to now sell at 5.5 cap, whatever the cap may be, but which is higher than we were planning on selling it a year ago, or a year and a half ago, before the Fed started raising rates. But back then, you weren't thinking about buying 5.5 cap, 6 cap properties either. You were looking at reinvesting and buying a 3.5, 4 cap as well. So yeah, what you lose on one end, you'll gain on the other end. So we expect, once the uncertainty starts settling down, which we think is going to happen shortly, I think Fed is basically done with their. There might be another quarter basis points, but that, I think, would be it. And once people realize this is the new normal, which, by the way, is not dissimilar for most of the time, my career in commercial real estate, once people start realizing that this is the new normal, they'll get comfortable with it, and then all the transactions that have been delayed will start happening.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think, like you said, I think it's just been a shock to the system with the rapidity of how rapid the rates have risen so quickly. And so that's kind of the conversations I've been having on the brokerage front, is a lot of, similar to you, they say the seller's like, man, like last year I could have done this. And then, that same conversation happens. Like, yes, but you've owned this property forever. You have a ton of equity. So even if you were to sell the property, you still have a good cushion as far as the equity you have in the property. Now you can go buy something at a higher cap rate as well. So you're able to, capitalize on the buying environment as well. So I couldn't agree more with you. And I'm pretty excited about the next couple of years. I think there's gonna be a lot of opportunity in the marketplace. So
not only that, but in the down market, those who have cash, are king. And the only way most of these people are going to get that cash is by selling their property. I mean, large amount, so there's a great opportunity to buy, because everyone's looking for you. You're the pretty girl on the dance floor, and everyone wants to get on your dance card, because you're liquid, right? And in a market where there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of people are very skittish about doing anything, and here you are, you have to do something, right? And you're like, everyone's like, what? Hey, I like that dance, please. Anyway, I'm overdoing the metaphor on that dance thing.
Of course, yeah.
but you get the point, right?
No, absolutely. I get it for sure. And like I said, I think we're both on the same page about the future, though. I think it is going to be, an opportunity for those individuals who are cash heavy, which again, coming through the sale process, you're going to have that opportunity to potentially capitalize on some good buying opportunities. But one thing I'm kind of curious about, obviously, you operate in the fintech side. As you had mentioned, I mean, I think just even since I started in 2019, the commercial real estate technology sector has been really vibrant. So it's great to see. I went to the commercial real estate technology conference in New York City back in 2021. Got to see some really cool technology that's been developed and coming down the pike. And I feel like now, the industry, although has been somewhat of a lag in technology, has started to really adopt, newer technologies in a variety of different facets. Whether that's, incorporating within the building itself or, providing platforms like your own platform. What do you think the future of fintech looks like? And then if you could touch on a little bit on potentially your company as well, where you see the vision of that evolution.
We call ourselves commercial real estate, fintech, open banking. And open banking, I'm sure you're familiar with that. That's when financial institutions allow third parties to develop products for the financial institutions customers. Zelle being one, Zelle, the payment system, but that's peer-to-peer. This is the first time I think anyone's done anything on the commercial real estate side on as a B2B, if you will. And so I can't really speak to the fintech in general, simply because what we're doing is so unique, and and we have, and our partnership with our partners is exclusive. So, we have a pretty strong moat of finding copycats to do what we're doing. So we're very excited about our potential. We are very excited about the value prop we're providing commercial real estate lenders and their borrowers, as well as those who want to sell properties or those seeking to raise equity. So I really can't speak to the fintech in general, but I think open banking is really the way to go, to develop products for financial institutions, in our case, commercial real estate lenders, that will help them better service their customers. Banks, I'm sure you received emails from your bank saying, hey, we're partnering with Zelle. Zelle's a partner. If next time you want to send money, all you got to do is, just click on here and you can use Zelle, that sort of stuff. Well, we're doing the same thing. We've got Lumen sending out emails to 7,000 of their borrowers saying, nxtCRE is great. It can do XYZ for you. Our partnership, the benefit of our partnership with nxtCRE will give you XYZ benefits and so forth and so on. And we're really excited about that, getting all our lenders to do that sort of thing.
That's awesome. Well, no, we're excited to see the future growth of the company and everything. And I think that, you guys have a phenomenal value proposition, and I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' growth over the coming years. Now, one of the questions we like to ask somewhat near the end of the podcast is, we're all voracious readers. A lot of the people that listen to the podcast are always looking to learn and expand their mind. And one of the things that I thought would be, beneficial to ask you is, what do you think the most impactful book that you've ever read? It doesn't necessarily have to be commercial real estate related. We've had a lot of people provide, books and different things that, aren't related to business or real estate at all, and maybe personal development, whatever else. But if you could share that, I think that'd be awesome.
Well, I don't know if I have a favorite book. I would say that right now. I don't think I have a favorite anything. I don't think I have a favorite color. There's a lot of books I love, and there's a lot of things I take from it. But it's funny. I think when I first was getting into business after school, when I realized, I'm not walking in space or anything like that. I read a book by the name of a guy named, I think his name was Tom Hopkins. It was How to Dress for Success and that sort of stuff. It stuck with me. It was today it's a little dated and that sort of stuff, but it sort of stuck with me. The professionalism that was that book was all about. I mean, I read all kinds of stuff. From that, I read Liar's Poker and all these other Wall Street books. They're fun things from Solomon Brothers and some of those colorful people that were there. Michael Milliken's book and all that sort of stuff. So I read everything. I can get my hands on. I'm a ferocious reader. I read, I'm constantly on my phone. I got news feed that I'm always checking to make sure I'm not missing anything. You have no idea where the next idea is going to come from. You have no idea how you might be able to create more value for your customers by gaining, more data points, if you will. I'll tell you right now, the case study I just mentioned where Lumen was able to sort of remove the threat of a competitor coming in and taking one of their own borrowers. That part of the value prop, when we did this, didn't really occur to us. But as we got into it, as we actually saw it, and as we have heard lenders say time and again, how often they're losing borrowers that are selling their property by buying another property, how often they're losing those borrowers to the listing broker, because the listing broker is the first one there to know that you guys are buying a property. Well, we're changing that. We're making it the lender that will be the first one to know.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's just a data point you heard just because you heard the same thing over and over and over. And it's like, there's maybe something here we can fill a need, and that's the basis of entrepreneurship is you see problems in whatever vertical you're in. In your case, it was on the lending side, and you found an opportunity and you took advantage of it. And it seems like you guys have been doing phenomenally for it. And obviously, like even in the idea portion, one of the things that I love to do, and obviously I read a lot of business books, real estate books, whatever else, but even getting outside of that a little bit, I can't tell you how much insight and value I've gotten from books that are completely unrelated to real estate, in particular when it comes to biographies and some other things like that, because you get an understanding of how people think. And we're all in whatever vertical you're in, whatever type of business. I mean, we have a framework and all these data points come into our framework, and then we make decisions based on that. So if you can modify that framework or the tapestry that you use to make decisions, I mean, that's ultimately going to make you better in business and in life. So it's a good decision. So, first off, Adam, we greatly appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate you taking about an hour of your time today to be with us. As we mentioned at the beginning, I think one of the things we like to ask at the end of the podcast is we have something called the Commercial Real Estate Treasure Chest. It's a repository of resources that we like to make available to our audience. So people go to our website and sign up, and then they be able to gain access to, a lot of our guests have contributed helpful PDFs, spreadsheets, case studies, really anything that they think would be of value to our audience. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity to share what you're willing to contribute today.
Perfect. I'll send you a case study. Mm-hmm. I'll also send you our intro deck, sort of people can look through it, and it's very clear value prop described in the deck for the commercial estate lenders and other people who will benefit from the information we gather from with the partnership of our lenders. I'll send you those two things. I think both of them are very interesting to review.
Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and make that available. So if you guys will listen to us in a podcast format, it'll be on our CRE Academy, Treasure Chest section of our website. So thanks again. So, well, Adam, again, like I said, thank you so much. So if people wanted to get in contact with you, whether you're, you fall in line with on the lending side, or maybe even sellers, or, whatever, vertical of the process that could have value as far as, what your offering is, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, if they want just general information, info@nxtCRE.com. If they want to get in touch with me directly, it's adam@nxtCRE.com. I reply to all my messages. And if you want to learn more about the company, it's nxtCRE.com.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll include that in the show notes. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, it'll be in the description. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, it'll also be in the description as well. So again, Adam, like I said, thank you so much for stopping by. For those of you guys who are listening to the podcast, we would greatly appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review. It makes a huge impact on our ability to reach a broader audience, and we've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of you guys doing so. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe. We've seen a significant uptick in our views and downloads and everything else, and we greatly appreciate all the support. So thanks again so much for stopping by, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Raph. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.